Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're digging into something I think, well, probably a lot of us have felt at some point. That feeling of just being completely wrung out, giving and giving until you feel, I don't know, empty, invisible, just exhausted.
Absolutely. And then that little thought creeps in, doesn't it? That what if I just wasn't available anymore? It can feel kind of radical, maybe even a bit selfish.
Right.
But honestly, exploring that question, the outcome, it might genuinely surprise you.
Exactly. And that's our goal today, really, not to frame this idea of pulling back as like a failure or something negative, but to actually see it as potentially a huge turning point, a really profound shift in how you relate to yourself and, to everyone else too.
And it often starts so quietly, doesn't it? It's usually not some big dramatic, I'm out announcement. It's more like a subtle shift. You find yourself maybe not answering texts quite as fast or just being a little less present, maybe?
Yeah, like turning down a dimmer switch. That's a great way to think about it. It's not coming from a place of malice, usually. It's more this deep weariness setting in from always being the one trying to hold it all together.
For everyone else, yeah. It's this quiet retreat born out of, exhaustion, fundamentally. And what's really interesting, I think, is how often this retreat is tied up with everything we've learned about being a so-called good person.
Oh, okay. Let's unpack that a bit. The good person myth.
Well, think about it. Society often teaches us, sometimes subtly, sometimes not, that love means constant sacrifice, that always being present for others is how you get validated, and that your self-worth is basically measured by how much you give away.
Right. We learn to be people pleasers. You get positive feedback for always saying yes, for being the dependable one, the one who never complains.
Exactly. And you can end up kind of accidentally building your whole identity on that endurance, on your ability to just keep going for others. Instead of building it on, who you authentically are, your identity gets wrapped up in being functional for others.
So when we talk about deciding to be no longer available, it's really important to be clear what we mean by that. It's not about like locking yourself away and becoming a hermit.
No, not at all. It's much more specific.
Yeah.
It's about choosing to stop being available for the things that consistently hurt you, the things that just drain your energy dry or keep you stuck in these negative cycles of relationships.
Okay.
Think of it as drawing a line. It's like a symbolic break, really. A rupture with that part of yourself that felt it had to keep sacrificing just to feel like it belonged or to get some kind of conditional love.
This connects, doesn't it, with some of Carl Jung's ideas about becoming, yourself.
Oh, definitely. Jung's whole concept of individuation, that journey of becoming a distinct whole individual, is super relevant here. You literally cannot become fully yourself if you're constantly pouring all your energy into meeting everyone else's expectations.
Right.
Individuation actually requires pulling back somewhat. Jung talked about needing silence, inner time, symbolic distance. You need that internal space to reflect, to understand yourself. And that process, it inevitably leads you to identify things you just have to say no more to.
Okay, so practically speaking, what happens when someone actually starts doing that? Saying no more, setting those boundaries, what's the immediate fallout?
Well, the first ripples can feel pretty big, both inside you and from people around you. Maybe you let calls go to voicemail more often. Maybe you take longer to reply to messages, or you actually cancel plans you'd normally just grit your teeth and go to. And people who are used to your 24/7 availability, they might get confused, they might feel hurt, maybe even annoyed or critical.
Yeah, because you're not being functional to their needs anymore, as you put it earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've changed the unspoken contract, and that can make others uncomfortable because it disrupts their pattern, their expectations of you.
And cue the guilt. Right. That's usually when it floods in. That voice saying, oh, you're being so selfish, or you're letting people down.
Oh, absolutely. Guilt it's like the fiercest guardian of that old self, the people-pleasing self. It's been trained for years, possibly decades, to sound the alarm whenever you start prioritizing your own needs.
It feels like such a roadblock sometimes.
It does. But again, thinking with Jung, we can see that guilt maybe as part of the shadow, the unacknowledged, repressed parts of ourselves. It's not necessarily an enemy to fight. It's holding on to old fears, old stories about what might happen if we stop performing, stop giving.
So instead of just pushing it away.
Exactly. The idea is to actually maybe feel the guilt, acknowledge it, get curious about it. What's it really afraid of? What story is it telling you? And then you can start to gently reassure that part of yourself. Reminded that your worth isn't actually tied to how exhausted you are.
That's a much more constructive way to think about it. Okay, so as you do that, as you start being more loyal to yourself, what happens internally? What's the shift inside?
Well, it's like this. This inner alchemy starts to occur. It's quite amazing, actually. When you stop pouring your energy into things that drain you, you create this space, a vacuum almost. And into that space, things that genuinely nourish you start to flow. Maybe it's more time for quiet reflection or creative stuff or just being in nature. Things that bring you back to your center. And silence, which maybe felt empty or scary before, can start to feel like real presence with yourself. And that withdrawal from the outside noise, it becomes a kind of reunion with your inner self.
And relationships with other people, how do those change when you're not the endlessly available version anymore?
They tend to shift pretty significantly too. As you change on the inside, as you become more authentic, the outside world often starts to respond differently. It's almost like you begin to attract different kinds of connections, healthier ones maybe.
Yeah.
Connections based on who you are now, not based on your old wounds or your need to please.
Interesting.
And that constant feeling that you have to explain yourself or justify your choices or prove your worth, that tends to lessen. Because real, healthy love and connection respects boundaries. It doesn't demand constant self-sacrifice. It honors your space.
It sounds good, but I imagine there's maybe a tricky bit in the middle, like a transition phase that's maybe not so easy.
Yes, absolutely. There can definitely be what you might call a desert phase. It's real. You might feel misunderstood by people who preferred the old you. You'll probably wrestle with that guilt we talked about. Some relationships honestly might end if they were built purely on your overgiving. And you might face moments of feeling quite alone.
Yeah, that sounds tough.
It can be. But it's helpful, I think, to see that discomfort not just as pain, but as a kind of portal, a necessary passage. It's the transition you have to move through to get to a more authentic, sustainable, and honestly more fulfilling way of living.
Okay, so for anyone listening right now who's thinking, yes, this is me, I feel this, what's one small thing they could maybe try, like a first step?
It really doesn't need to be some huge dramatic gesture. Start small. Maybe. Just maybe. Try turning off your phone for an hour or two this week. Just notice how that feels, what comes up. Or take 5 minutes to just jot down who or what consistently leaves you feeling drained after interacting with them. Just becoming aware is huge.
Okay, awareness first.
Yeah. And then start asking yourself that question more often about commitments or requests. Does this nourish me or does it drain me? Just asking is powerful. And maybe the bravest small step. Practice saying no to one small thing this week. Something you'd usually say yes to purely out of obligation or guilt. Just one thing.
One small no. Seems manageable. And if people stick with this, start making these changes. What are the long-term payoffs? What can they look forward to?
Oh, the long-term benefits are really quite profound. You often see real improvements in physical health, less burnout, more energy. Mentally, things tend to get clearer, less brain fog. Emotionally, you often feel more stable, less reactive. And maybe most importantly, your capacity to connect with others actually deepens because you're connecting from a place of fullness, of desire, of wholeness, not obligation or emptiness.
Wow.
Learning to be available for yourself first.
Yeah.
It really is a transformative act. It sounds simple, but it could be revolutionary for your life.
Well, thank you for guiding us through this deep dive today. We genuinely hope this conversation has given you all some valuable things to think about regarding your own availability.
Yes, and if these ideas resonated, if you want to explore more about psychology, self-understanding, personal change, please do subscribe to the channel, Jung and You Psychology for Change. That way you won't miss out on future discussions.
Thanks so much for being here with us. We'll see you in the next episode.